Hello.
Right, 3 minutes are gone after 10. Good morning. Welcome to the 1873 FM. It is the virtual coffee sessions on Tuesday. It's the 8th of, is it the 8th? No, it's the 11th of August, 2020. All right, time is flying. Pretty soon we'll be saying hello December and hello 2021. Right. Yesterday I was chatting to friends and I was like, this year, 2020, is a gap year. If you went to university, you know what gap year means, right? Right. Good morning to Natasha. How are you doing?
I'm good in yourself. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I'm trying to fiddle with my toys here. Something doesn't sound right. So bear with me for a second while I try and fix that issue that I'm having in studio with my toys. Wellington, good morning.
Good morning, Wildfire. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning.
There's a whole lot of things wrong here. So bear with me while I still try and fix that. Trying to figure out what's going on. Okay. when the mechanic fights with his toys. Bear with me for a second. Right, I hope that is sorted out. Yes, sounds like it's sorted out. Right, a very good morning to everybody that is joining us this morning on the virtual coffee sessions. Like I said, apologies, I had to deal with a bit of tech going on around me. Hopefully that is sorted out. Right, let's begin. Towards media excellence, journalism versus activism. Right, where do we draw the line, and where does one become the other? Right, that's the conversation that we'll be having this morning, and I'm glad to be joined by my co-host, Natasha, out in Durban. I'm sure it is a sunny day out there, as much as it is a sunny day in Johannesburg.
No, unfortunately, it's very cold today. Use some long sleeves again, and I've got a bit of a throat sore today. My tonsils are packing up. When we have winter going, summer going into winter. The change of seasons actually gets to me a bit. So I'm trying to beat this tonsillitis that I'm suffering with at the moment. But yeah, it's quite cold. Yesterday we had an ice wind the whole day. So kind of weather's been up and down. We had 30 degrees on the weekends, and now we've got like 20 degrees for the week. So it's kind of like it's
by anyone online to multiple platforms. Information dissemination, communication, or journalism has become a forte for Mr. and Mrs. Joe Public, right? And I think this lockdown has, if not, has brought about too many journalists, though I like to call them social commentators. So that's the conversation that we're having this afternoon. Once again, good morning to my panelist, Mr. M.
Good morning.
Right. We also have Wellington Muzengeza joining us also this morning. Wellington, good morning.
Good morning, Wildfire. Good morning.
No, thank you. Right, let us begin by maybe defining what journalism is. I'll start off with you, Wellington. What is journalism?
Well, I guess journalism. I don't purport to be an expert in journalism or know everything about journalism, but I think journalism involves the activity or profession of writing for newspapers, broadcasting on television, radio, or using various media outlets to disseminate information or to communicate. So the act of disseminating information or communication itself is journalism. That's my view.
Okay. All right. And I'll come to Mr. M. Your take on journalism. What is journalism according to you?
Maybe journalist, not journalism.
No. I'm saying journalism as a whole. As a whole.
No, there has to be a journalist for that to be journalism. So the first thing is, what is a journalist? And it has been defined by many. It's a person, a human being. Some write, some use their voice, some use other mechanisms to communicate to other people other than them. They inform, educate, entertain, and they do so by just telling the stories as they are, not as they want them to be. You are not a creator, you are a storyteller. There must be a subject, and there also must be the matter itself that you're dealing with has to involve people. That's why you don't have a journalist in the animal kingdom. You only have a journalist in the affairs of human beings. When we look at a journalist and an activist, a doctor, a nurse, what are they? At the end of the day, they are human beings like you and me. And there are people who are witch doctors who never saw medical school. There are prophets who never went to heaven.
Okay, no, thank you for that, Mr. M. We're also joined by Hlengiwe. What's up? How are you? All right.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
No, not too bad. Welcome to where it all began.
Thank you. So, yeah, this is literally my 360 moment right now. Like literally my 360 degree moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are in this space, Hlengiwe. What's your understanding, or what's your take on what a journalist is?
For me, based on what I studied, journalism was categorized into different segments or levels in a sense. The first introduction to journalism, they said, okay, all these known, I'm like, okay, hold up, what do you mean? The lecturer then said, okay, cool, listen, there's different types of journalism. Stories, there's current stories. That means he who breaks the story first is the newsbreaker, a translator. Does the person breaks the story really understand the context of the story or the content? Do you understand the 5 stages of an age? Who, what, where, why, what, and how? Who did it? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? How did it happen? Because the why is the motive. So if you know the motive in law, when they say, did you kill your husband or not? They won't ask you until they discover a motive. And if there's something that you wanted that your husband has, that you asked for the case might be, then the motive, and that will lead towards that, maybe accusations or speculations or whatever the case might be. But back to your question, journalism, I feel like it's something that you need to, venture and go on the path of finding your own narrative and your own understanding. Then there's that here. What do you understand about journalism? What is journalism to you? Outside what you've learned in school, outside what you've learned, in books and whatnot. Because sometimes it's just so much information that no one can comprehend, and it's just tiring.
Right. No, thank you so much for that. Natasha, from the explanations that our panelists have given us, anything you'd like to add, or something that you'd like to contribute there?
No, I've seen, during, we've got lockdown happening, and a lot of our journalists have, and they have become activists in a way, because, some of them support very, very, very great causes. And I don't have a background in journalism, so today is a very, very, very interesting topic for me, because I like these topics, because these are topics that it's for a person like me who don't understand the topic to learn from this topic, because I think a lot of people confuse the two with one another. They would be like, you're a journalist, you choose a side, which is not the case, because I believe that a journalist is supposed to be a neutral person. But a lot of people don't perceive it that way. So I really appreciate topics like this because it kind of just explains to people what it is, and it basically just says, what, this is what it is. And you need to, it just gives you a bit more of a clear understanding of what it is. So I'm gonna try and comment as much as I can today. I'll use some common sense from my side. But yeah, I'm all ears, and like I said, it is what it is. People need to understand what it is. Like I said, we need to, and I think a lot of people that are journalists really take it to a next level, and they kind of abuse the power. But I take my hat off for journalists. I think you guys really have guts to go out and do what you do. It's kind of like a dangerous job. I think people need to pay you guys a danger pay for being journalists.
Okay. No, thank you for that. So I'll come to Mr. M. You've been there's people that are saying you are now a journalist because of programs that you do on social media and on the 1873. Are you a journalist, or you are a social commentator, or you're an activist?
It's like Natasha, who's trying to run away from who she has become. She is a mother, she's a woman, she's also a media personality. So if people see her every day, now they know what her hair looks like. If she decided to wear the same clothes that she was wearing on Friday, they will also be saying, Natasha, what's going on? So effectively, she's in the public space without her knowing that actually she is a media personality. So there are many people who are out there who don't need training, because sometimes people who are trained think training gives them the identity. Imagine you have a teacher who doesn't learn. Imagine you have a soldier who refuses to be a soldier and wants to be a general. The first day he enters the army. It means you can't learn. There are journalists who are not willing to tell the story because they think in their heads there is a story. They begin to own the followers, the audience. So you saw with Mkoma Masimba, he says, I am the boss. And if you ask them, how can you be a boss to people who are out there doing their own thing, who decides to follow you for their own reason? So if you're a good writer, if you're a good broadcaster, you don't even have to campaign to say I'm the best. Like a doctor doesn't have to say I'm the best doctor, because people die still after going to see a doctor. So the doctor is not there to prevent death. A journalist is there to inform, to educate, and entertain people. So if I get news like this news, how do I share it? You may find that the people who are here don't even share to tell people that I'm going to a show and it's going to start at 10, ending at 11, just to say that. And when I finish the show, I will say, I am part of this food. Imagine you are part of the food and you refuse to show that you are in the food. You are in the car. You are in the plane. And then you have Senior who says, technically, journalist, the voice of the voiceless. No, you are your own voice. You have your own eyes.
Okay, we'll come to the comments. Let's first deal with the first part of activism and versus journalism before we interact with the comments that are coming in. Otherwise, we'll lose our thought process and how we want to end. Right. So Wellington, when you look at the journalists at the moment, that have taken to the part of being activists or the part of being people that are now social commentators. Is that ethical in the journalism sphere?
Well, what's happening is that everyone is now broadcasting in real time through Twitter and other social media platforms. Now, most of the activity that happens on these social media streets is not very ethical. You find people screaming abuse at each other on the Twitter street, which even Julius Malema mentioned that they are very rough. There is no code of conduct per se on these social media streets. So half the time, most of the content or most of the interaction there is very unethical.
Okay. And who defines or determines this notion of ethics when it comes to what journalists can do and cannot do? I'll give a very good example. I think I was chatting to Mr. M yesterday when we were talking about the media school or media training, where he was asking me, which radio station would I look at? And obviously, which journalists do I look at and say, okay, those are my points of light when it comes to affairs of the media. And the name of Professor Jonathan Moyo came, the name of Hopewell Chingono came up also, saying when Hopewell was arrested, was he a journalist or he was an activist? Maybe Mr. M, I'll come back to you on that one.
Yeah, we have different expectations. Like if you see a doctor, you expect that person to be a doctor. And imagine you go to a doctor and you end up finding a comedian and you are sick.
Yeah.
So when you look up the stars and say, that's a journalist, there's some expectation of what it is. Or when you then go beyond, which is what Boniface is saying, there's a symbiotic relation between journalism and activism. You then discover that actually an activist, a journalist, is not there to give legs to a story. It's just to report, as Natasha said, the objective fact. What Klengi was said, this is what, where, when, who, how, all those questions. So I can't then give a voice to somebody. It's like meat inviting flies to say, come and attack the meat. All I need to do is to describe that there were a lot of flies that I didn't see before the meat was put on the table. When I put the meat, the flies came and they caused menace on the meat. So that's the story. So and so lost life, and the loss of life was intentional. And this is what happened. But the moment I ask, why did you kill somebody? Then I'm already part of that story. Then I feel pity for the person. Or I start attacking the person. You are a bad governor. You are a bad CEO. But the results show anyway that I'm bad. Do I need to go and rub it in?
Okay, right. Very interesting take there. I think it also goes to the issue of saying, as a journalist, where do you draw the line? I don't know whether that makes sense, Wellington.
Yes, it does. So when one has made themselves into journalists by virtue of their participation on social media platforms, they need to now understand that they are not animals; they are actually humans. Which means whatever they say, they need to learn empathy. They need to be considerate. They need to be very professional in their conduct. So they are not going to conduct themselves as if they were in a pub or in some kind of jungle. So I think the onus is on the individual to realize that to self-govern themselves, to realize that they may have to self-govern themselves in their action.
Okay. And Mr. M, when you look at social media or media and mainstream media, these two sort of now coexist, because one cannot do without the other. But then both platforms are now being used for different issues. Like yesterday, I think we had Lennon on the show in the morning, where he brought in issue of sort of creating rules or putting in structures on how content is brought about on air. How do we then start now to draw that thin line? Or at the moment, media is just open for everybody to just say as they see or do as they please?
Yeah, if you look at Uber, what business are they in?
That's people business.
They are in the right business. They are in the service business. So if I can't get a taxi on time, I Uber. And Uber came in because the taxis were not doing what they were supposed to do. Some of them were arrogant. They spent 30 minutes while you are waiting for them. So somebody got angry and did something. So if there's a story that I think ought to be in the public domain, do I need to wait for these so-called qualified code of conduct people? Or I just need to express it? And we need to encourage people that we are too small to control others by profession. So there are many people who think a qualification is protection, or a license is protection. I'm licensed to be a taxi owner, therefore anyone who doesn't have a license cannot give you a ride. But what if the person I'm giving a ride does not pay with cash but with vouchers? So this is now the problem, that we live in the digital age, where broadcasting is no longer what it was or should be. And we are there. A radio is a broadcast. So if my voice is in it, even if I say nothing, it's like Wellington decides to withhold his face. That's a choice. But if he's aspirational, he wants to be seen to say, I saw that guy. You understand?
Okay.
That me and
Wellington. And Wellington have made a choice.
I bet people, because they will hear our voice, but they don't see us. So now we are full. We have three men and 2 women, and one looks so white, and the other one looks so close at white. So that's just the description. So we have 40% women, 60% men, and 40% of the men are in South Africa, 20% of the group is in Zimbabwe, and all we are talking about things we know nothing about, because we are talking about a journalist who doesn't exist.
Okay, when you say a journalist who doesn't exist, care to sort of expand on that?
Journalists die like us. Journalists are stupid like us. Journalists are smart like us. So a journalist is a human being who is willing to learn and be able to be truthful like a disciple. How many disciples want to write their own text? Imagine you had to write a text about Jesus. Where would you start? Imagine Lazarus. So these were storytellers.
So a journalist, in essence, is a storyteller.
Yeah, they has to like what the person. You guys are the ones. I think Klengiwe is a trained person. You know what you need to do to define a story. You need to know where is the story. You can't say the story is in heaven. Then you start writing a story how beautiful heaven is.
All right, Natasha. I see you nodding there. Any highlights that you'd like to share?
Well, I kind of agree with Ntuma, is that journalists are humans. And the new thing that's been like coming up a lot is blogging. People love blogging, and people love blogging anything. And it's from, tips on doing things, even they comment on the news and blogging. So, and they're not a trained journalist. They're not someone who went to study at a university or a college, but they are blogging. And, they themselves are journalists' minds, I honestly see that a journalist, there's so much to the truth, and the only person who can give you the truth is the person who knows the truth. A journalist to me is someone who takes whatever is given to them and they work it to make it available for the people out there to have access to. So if it's like something to do, let's say, I saw this morning on Twitter that Donald Trump commented on our president. He doesn't know the truth, but Donald Trump's commenting on it. So that he's not a trained journalist, So I think a journalist is someone that basically comments on what they see to give us a kind of like an understanding. It's basically, for me, a journalist is someone who gives an opinion. Same with someone that does blogging. They give an opinion on a subject. And once again, I think it's once again one of those things. We've got a topic with a million opinions because everybody's got their own view and their own side to the story. But only actually the story has its one side, and that's the side that the person who's in charge of that story is the person who's got the truth and the actual side. And like I said, there's a lot of people out there that like Ntuma said, if you enter the digital age and you become part of social media, you are a person of that kind of journalism. I think journalism is just it's not one thing. It's a broader thing. It's there's different parts of journalism. There's the person who writes to the newspaper. There's a person who's not in magazines. There's a person who does social media. So it's different types of journalism out there. And I don't think you do have a lot of qualified people. And I take my hat off to journalists because they know how to write English. You get a couple of people out there that write blogs, and you're like, where is this guy actually English? Because their grammar doesn't make sense. It's like lawyers. They go to university to study law. They don't go to university to study how to argue in court. And I think that's the same thing with journalism. They will go to university to learn how to write an article. They don't go to university to actually learn how to actually take something and work it. They're given the textbook, but they're not given how to use that textbook. And I think that's why a lot of people out there think they can become journalism just by blogging. Like I said, it's a wide thing, and it kind of takes the whole thing of studying towards that degree. It kind of takes the realness away from it. It's like
right. So
everybody
like you've said, there's people that have studied for this, and Wildfire decides one day he wakes up and is now an expert in journalism, is now writing stories, and whether it's verified stories, as long as I've put my stories out there, I'm happy. Does that not sort of piss off those that are qualified to be the writers? Just because I've got access to whether a computer and I can type on Word and I can publish, doesn't that sort of discredit these individuals instead of leaving the work to experts? Is that not an issue though?
Yeah, I fully agree. You know what, and that's something that makes me as well, kind of uncomfortable, is that you pay a lot of money and you spend a lot of years in a college or university or a creative school or wherever you go to study, and then you get this random Joe from the streets who decides, okay, I can go into WordPress now and I can start doing a blog and I'm going to blog on everything. And sorry, as people, we as the public, we enjoy entertainment. We enjoy a good story. That is, we are very nosy kind of people. That's just our nature. And, we enjoy drama and we enjoy living in other people's lives. I've noticed a lot of people live through other people's lives and their stories, and it kind of becomes like a fixation for them. And I don't think when people get to that stage, they do not care who the source is or where the information comes from, because it's just an interesting and an entertaining story, and that just takes the whole, like I said, the realness and the authenticity away from what is actual news, what is actual journalism, what is actual the truth out there. Because, like I said, a lot of people have different opinions, but it kind of takes it away from what is real, and that is what causes so much havoc in our communities today, is because everybody in their 2 cents that are commenting and they are posting things online everywhere, that people start believing in the things that are not the truth, or people start believing in the things that are half the truth, and that is what kind of causes all the issues we have in the country and we have in our communities today.
So, Mr. Ember, I would like your input on the issue of when a journalist turns into an activist. Does that make a journalist a bad boy? Or it's somebody that is frustrated?
You can't turn into something that you are not. So you can't take a mask called journalist, then wear another mask called an activist. You are still the same person. But when you are trained, when you are a human being, you tend to manage yourself, to limit yourself so that things can be done. Those who are good in their craft, they are not worried about dogs barking. They will always be judged by the public. It's like Messi, Ronaldo, all these guys who play sports. They are not so much worried about other talent. But what they do is they put their talent forward. But I can also be a musician, and I'm a soccer player. So I don't turn into something. I just remain who I am. So this issue of activism has to be understood, that even a journalist can be angry. And imagine I'm a doctor, I'm angry with my patient. What should I do? Give him poison?
take the patient out. I see you laughing there.
Yeah, it's right. Like the proper full saga. Yeah, but we're not gonna talk about
okay.
anything.
So thank you. There is editorial policies. I think there's somebody that put up a question. I think it's Boniface there, Mr. M. It's far from me. It says some journalists are also guided by their employers in the way they cover and angle their stories. That's the editorial policy of a publication. Right. So now, Mr. M, you said that one can not change a mask and be the other. But then you find that your organization would like you to wear a certain mask. How do you balance that between you as an individual wanting to sort of limit yourself or wanting to expand, but then the policies limit you to this one thing only?
That's why we call it C2C, converting connections to communities. That when you are in a community, you become orderly. When you are a mother, you know how to discipline and how to get people in order. Then imagine the child said, no, why should I eat now? And it's dinner time. what should you do? It doesn't mean you cease to be a human being, because we are creatures of rules. We can put our own rules. And my job is to obey the rules until I can make my own rules. So if I am working, it doesn't make me a slave, but it gives us structure and order, because there's too much in the universe to cover. But what angle should I cover? Like now we are covering something that may be in the domain of the media space. That when you don't have standards and you are not good at your craft, then you want to be protective of something. There are many bad journalists who hide behind profession. There are many people who don't listen to their editors, and they want to write a story that damages the very paper that gives them a life. So where do you balance? If I work for an institution, then I know that our slant is 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I have to be the best within the 4 corners of what I'm talking about. I may be a judge, but I don't like the guy who is before me. What should I do?
Send him to prison.
Should I send him to prison or give him the fairness?
send him to prison, right? You can't just write malicious.
We have to balance ourselves to say, okay, there are many people who say we were colonized. Imagine someone in 2020 say, I'm writing a story because of colonialism. Can you imagine? The person went to school, the person is observing current affairs, and then he talks of, I am stopped by white people from writing a good story.
By the policy.
By the editorial policy that my editor says, he can give me an angle, but the only way to make me redundant is to write the story himself or herself. But if you give me an angle, what's wrong with that?
Right. Okay. Right. Wellington. There's issues of people that or journalists that would just write for the sake of writing, whether it's to push. I think at the moment, I think with the advent of Google Ads, that people are seeing as a means of making money. So I just write an unverified story so that I just gain a traffic. And me getting traffic, it means me making money. Is this where journalism is going, where it's all about making money, or journalists have lost their mojo, or they've lost their ways of covering and sharing real stories and verified stories?
I think it's very important to realize that in any endeavor, there's always the element of interest, or self-interest, or vested interest. When one embarks to write or on a mission to write a blog, or to post on Twitter, or to do anything for that matter in their life, they're always pursuing self-interest. Yes, others may say, well, there are also other interests. It's true, but let's be honest, the human being has a predilection to pursue the self-interest over and above everything else. So if the self-interest includes money, or getting a payment for a blog, or generating content that brings a lot of traffic to their YouTube page, or their Facebook page, or to Twitter, and for paid ads, then you'll be surprised the type of content that people will put out there for the sake of it. So, having said that, it's critical that we understand that the quality of content will always be compromised, that people will put out without a code of conduct.
Okay, right. We have Hadi Leon also joining us. Leon, good morning. Welcome to Virtual Coffee Sessions.
Good morning. Sorry, I can't be on. I can't put my face there, but you can never look at my beautiful picture there in my office. So,
okay, all right. Your contribution.
my contribution is this. I liked Mr. Mawere's example about biblical times, but so I'll use that to add my little information here. Mr. Mawere, you spoke about the Bible. You know, when I'll give you an example. Zacchaeus' story with Jesus. Imagine a reporter writing a tax collector or what. Or there's sometimes Jesus used to tell people not to tell anyone about an event or a miracle. And there were some people that he told, go and tell everyone in your city. And you'd check and see that Jesus would, that's journalism. Many people don't know that journalism includes radio station, includes even the past. You can do journalism. A definition of journalism is stuff, or you can report stuff from the past. What I'm here to contribute is there are some people now who just gather information or make up information because they hate Mr. Mawere, and then just write, Mr. Mawere has done that, this, or Leon has started stealing, or Leon is HIV, or Leon is doing this, knowing that they will damage his reputation. The stuff remains on Google because the American law or whatever, there's some law that protects freedom of speech. Can you imagine the wise men when they were going to find Jesus? They made a mistake and ended up at Herod's place. Imagine a journalist writing, oh, baby Jesus almost caught because the wise men went to the enemy or something. Jesus would have been caught. Herod would not have killed all those. He would have just gone to Egypt to kill him. Journalism sometimes can distract us if misused. That's my contribution. We need to know that some newspapers, some in Europe here, some of these big papers, they'll put a Beckham lookalike and write a story about Beckham, knowing that they will make 1 million, and when or 7 million, and when Beckham sues them, he will sue them for 1 million. So that's a profit. That's business. So people are misusing journalism. They know that.
No, thank you.
50 million. Sorry.
Okay. No, thank you for your contribution, Lennon. There. And when you look, I'll come to Wellington. That a lot of people or journalists are guided by whether it's public policy, and there's organizations that some of these journalists belong to that sort of guide or put in laws that each and every individual who's in the media fraternity has to abide by. But then when we look at the moment, it seems like these organizations really aren't doing much because there's a whole lot of bad apples out there.
Yes. What is happening is that because now there's the proliferation of citizen journalists, so to speak, or citizen journalism, where the citizen has given themselves a voice and platforms that are available because of the digital revolution. What is happening is that people can just broadcast willy-nilly. And the government
does that make one a journalist, or it makes you a social commentator? Maybe there needs to be separation of the two.
The act of disseminating information, communicating, is journalism. If you do critical thinking and critical analysis, and that information is put out there in the public domain, that is journalism. You are a journalist, but then you are not the traditional journalist as we know. You are now the new journalist as we know, as we have now learned to know, or in the digital age. So you are a journalist, but that is, of course, others will have different perception of that. But in my view, I think one becomes a journalist as long as they have the capability to disseminate and communicate information into the public domain. That information, some will be useful, some will not be useful. The only challenge is that this, as you ask, what is there a policy on this type of journalism? There isn't. There is no policy. That is why you find that in Zimbabwe, for example, they are grappling with the idea of a media journalist or a media activist journalist, like Hopewell has turned out to be, and almost everyone is like that. There is no public policy that is written into law or into a court.
Mr. M, you mentioned that we have C2C, which is sort of becomes this consortium of people that have the same interests coming together, creating their own rules, creating their own way of doing things. Is this the way that media is going, where people become the ones that determine what kind of information can be put out there?
Yeah, no. This morning I had a very interesting chat with Janet, and she says, "Look, I have a group of people who want to do a magazine under C2C." And I said, "That's fine, but what is the content?" Which is editorial freedom. And she says, "Look, each one must do what they can to promote the idea of C2C." So I was just giving the example of a general and a soldier. That if a general says jump, what do you say?
How high?
How high?
Or how low?
high? Yeah. The moment you say why, you are no longer a soldier, you are also a general. So the moment you are a journalist, and it doesn't mean the general has to be shot first, because he doesn't go to the front. But the people who go to the front as soldiers, they go there knowing that there are two things to happen. One is death, one is to kill somebody. So what kind of a person would encourage people to go and die? And they look forward to going to die. They even march. But when the battle is over, some are dead. So that's structure and order. So journalism, that's what Sabina was talking about. There has to be structure, there has to be order. Even this show itself, we can do a magazine on it. We can convert into text. We can convert into video. We can convert into voice. We can do whatever we want to say. What are the key lessons we have learned from here? And you know, one of the key lessons we have learned,
Sure.
that Sabina is in the UK, but she was with us all along. But she was provoked to come out of your shell and say, I want to be part of that conversation. History will remember me inside it than outside it. That is our purpose. We provoked somebody, and there's evidence to it that this show has some impact on others who are not us. We may take it for granted, but somebody is learning out there about the things that we've exchanged. And that's why Boeing 777, is it 7777, is with us. Good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to everybody here.
Good morning to you, to our captain. Right.
Bless you. Yes.
Your take, your contribution, Captain.
Okay, what I just wanted to ask Mr. Mawere is, would you trust a doctor with no qualifications?
I don't trust those with qualifications because I was never in school with them.
Well, the question is, would you trust a doctor with no qualifications? So let's just put it like this, right? You're ill in Harare or you're in America. We take you to Brooklyn in the streets and we say, Mr. Mawere, this is a doctor. Don't worry, he's not qualified, but he will surely heal you. Will you feel confident enough to be treated by that doctor?
I'm saying is that I have faith that somebody has not killed somebody. If everybody says, Mawere, go to that doctor, the first thing I get is the name. I don't even check the qualification. or whether they were good in school or not. Because most of the professions that we deal with is by referral. If you're a bad doctor, it doesn't take long for you to bad mouth. If you're a good journalist, it doesn't take long for you to be known.
Okay, so what I just wanted to say in my own profession, right, is that can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you.
What I just wanted to say is that in my own profession, I started with entry-level fitness, right, in the fitness industry. But then I used to tell people that I was a fitness instructor. I ended up qualifying as a fitness instructor, but when I qualified as a fitness instructor, I also started telling people that I was a personal trainer. The difference between a fitness instructor and a personal trainer is that a fitness instructor works in the gym and instructs the resistance machines in the gym. A personal trainer reports to a board, they're insured, and they can be self-employed. But when you are self-employed, you must adhere to certain insurances which is covered in the code and conduct. So we can't have people on social media telling personal trainers what to do, because we've studied that in the code and conduct, which should be studied, and I should show my qualifications to a certain board called the REP. That's the Register of Exercise Professionals. So the reason why people would refer a certain doctor to another doctor, which happens mostly, is because those doctors are registered to a certain board with their qualifications and serial numbers. So what I'm just trying to say is this. Most of the bloggers are journalists wannabe. They are just like 777, who started saying she's a personal trainer, but she wasn't even qualified until she got qualified. So most of the bloggers are acting like journalists because maybe it's an ambition gone wrong. And then when we come back to the insurance, is that if you are trained by a journalist institution, right? You already know what type of information you're going to cover as a journalist. You already know the don'ts and do's, because everyone can be struck off. If I use the board to write your name, Mr. Mawere is saying he's a journalist, this is what he's wrote, and this is this, and we think this is not right for the community. Okay, if a journalist writes a fake story, like what the other gentleman was saying, Handy, that does it mean people are at liberty to write fake stories? Well, if you have studied real journalism and you're following the code and conduct, right? If you deliver fake news, you must have an insurance to guard you. So if I write things about you, Wildfire, which you don't appreciate, you can come and speak to me, you speak to my lawyers, you take me to court, and if you have to sue me, you're not suing me. You are suing my insurance, and that insurance comes from my certificate to be self-employed.
All right.
In fact,
thank you.
Do you find this topic of interest, the show of interest? Because that's why we had called you to say, do you think we ought to talk about this?
Very much so, because I personally think people should stop their pride. Instead of calling themselves the journalists, they should just stick to bloggers. You see, that way everybody knows that these people are not insured.
No, that one we'll talk about another day. This show was just to provoke this identity issue. And
yes, just the other thing I just wanted to put in, sorry about that, is that, here the topic is written journalism and activists, right? That means in your book of code and conduct as a journalist or as a qualified journalist, if you want to be an activist, it means you must go back to your books and specialize. That is a political journalism. This is why even on Facebook, right, when you're filling in your pages, you have to actually tell them that you're going to be talking about politics for some reason, but it's some of the small print which gets ignored by Facebook. So just like specializing as a doctor, if you want to specialize in children, then you specialize in children. So that's journalism. If you want to specialize in investigative, you specialize in that. If you want to specialize in political journalism.
Okay. All right. No, Sabina, thank you so much.
I agree with you, Sabina. But that is the traditional form of journalism that you are describing. No one disputes that. But we are discussing the evolution of journalism from the traditional form, as we have always known it, to the new form in the digital age. That's what we are discussing.
Well, that is the one, because everything is rule of law. Everything should be documented. Everything should be proved. V11, are you a doctor? Yes, I am. Show us your certificates and your insurance, because you're serving the public and its publics. So that is actually not this is actually the main thing these days. It's no more in the old age where somebody can hold a mic and start It's about your qualification, the way you've studied, all these code of conduct which are supplied by the board. So you say you've got the right to say, okay, Sabina, you've said it in the public that you're a personal trainer. Can you kindly show us your certificates and your insurance and which board you report to? I am obliged to show you those things, sir.
All right. No, thank you so much, Sabina. All right. Let's take our last remarks as we've come to the end of this segment. Hlengiwe, your closing remarks?
My closing remarks is, one thing I've learned in the 3 years I did a show at 1873, and I did not understand why you and Mawere, Mr. M, made us alternate as young people. Because we'd do breakfast, we'd do the midday show, we would box each other with ideas, we would, shift each other's paradigms. And one thing I learned personally was that life is like a pyramid. And Mr. M, I remember in one of the mentee cycles said, life is like a pyramid. The fact that you are ahead and you're on top of the pyramid does not make you any better than the people on the ground, because those people are the ones, helping you up so that you can see afar. And by seeing afar, you need to go back and work with these people. And for me, that's what I've learned, that life in general, there's no such thing as that journalist, him, her. There's just one thing, the human race. And if we understand that, and lastly, one thing that I learned and I shared on our C2C group on WhatsApp was Denzel Washington's clip. It's 40 seconds long. A journalist asked him about, what his take is on journalists. And he said, well, if you read, you are misinformed. And if you don't read, you're uninformed. And now it has moved from, breaking the truth and telling the truth. It has moved to being a trendsetter, as I said previously, and breaking a story and trending for all the wrong reasons. Hence, malicious news and false, fabrications and sensationalism and all of these things are actually taking a flight. And everyone is a self-ordained journalist because we all have social media. And so for me, it's just about introspecting as a person and being true to your narrative. That's it.
All right. No, thank you. Wellington?
I think we need to realize that we are operating in different times. The new normal is that gone are the days where we had one radio station or just two state-controlled radio stations, etc., etc. In the normal world, everything has gone digital. The citizen has got a voice in real time. Their opinion can be disseminated, can be heard at any point in time. Traditional forms of journalism are going to be like accounting. They are going to be replaced, which is going to be replaced by an app one day. The same way that the traditional journalist, print media journalist, broadcast journalist, or any type of journalist can be replaced by a blogger. That is just the fact. We just need to come to find a way to realize or to regulate their conduct or their behavior. So the conversation should be what type of policy and who should determine the policy that governs an online prowler or an online so-called writer or broadcaster.
Okay. All right. No, thank you. Thank you so much, Wellington. Natasha, lessons learned today?
Okay, so a lot, I fully agree with Machu, those who join us today. Journalism is journalism, and some of those who are journalists today have studied very long and have experience and have the guts to go out there and get the news and get the information they need. You see online and you see on the TV, especially, how journalists stand in the middle of a storm and they're reporting from this. And please show me one blogger out there that's standing inside of a storm and that's actually giving information about what's actually happening. We've got journalists up in Lebanon where the people are literally at war now with the government. Show me a blogger that's standing there and reporting from there. People cannot be taking and it's just kind of where I disagree with Boeing 777 is that you cannot be putting yourself a title if you have not earned that title. I'm sorry, that's how I see it. You cannot be giving yourself, you cannot be saying I'm a doctor, but you do not even know what's the difference between a cold and a flu. I'm sorry, you cannot be giving yourself a title. If you do not have the certification, you cannot give yourself that title. And that is from my side. And I can see a lot of people can disagree with me on this. And, we can have an argument regarding this. And, a lot of opinions can come in. But like I said, you cannot be taking a title of journalism if you are just a blogger. If you are someone who enjoys food and you want to blog about your foods and you want to put your picture online about the dinner you made, you can't go today and become a food blogger and tomorrow you can comment on something that happened in the news that's not even got anything to do with you. Because what you have, if you as a blogger, you only go on what you read online that has been put there by other kind of people. I don't see you going out into that danger to kind of get the story.
Thank you so much, Natasha. And Mr. M, your closing remarks?
Yeah, I think the conversation continues as we search for excellence, media excellence. Who out there is the one we can say is a shining star? It's not because of qualifications. There are many people who are qualified, certified, controlled by bodies, but they simply don't have the X factor.
Yeah.
So if you have the X factor, showcase it. And the public is very generous. They won't ask you for a certificate if you can cure me. They won't ask you for a certificate to play football or tennis. Just play it and practice and be the best. There are many people who have certificates, but then they stop learning after they get the certificate. And you become rusty. So what is it that we are saying? That the harder you work at something, the better you become. If today you want to be the best in the communication arena, just keep on practicing it. Just keep on showing up, like Klengiwe has shown up, like Sabrina has shown up. And the more you listen to other views, the more you sharpen your own. And Mkoma Masimba is there. Today, he is a media personality. And some people may say they're PhDs, but they won't be able to get the following that he's got. So we must salute and celebrate, because it's not easy to be followed. The people who follow you are human beings. They don't ask for certificates. They just ask to be respected. They just ask you to be yourself. But the
Right.
moment you throw certificates at people, they will walk away. And they're
Okay,
entitled to walk away.
No, thank you so much, Mr. M, for that. And who did I leave on closing remarks? Sabina, your closing remarks?
Yes, I cannot add more to what the last lady said, that we cannot carry on claiming titles which are not ours. So some people have worked so hard to be doctors, right? And someone can just come with a fake certificate and say they're doctors. Some people have worked for so long to be journalists. Then a blogger should not be accepted in society to come and claim as a qualified journalist. Like what the lady said, real journalists are going out there in the wind, yet we see the blogger here on social media just busy fueling false information. And I'll come again to Mr. Mawere. I still disagree with Mr. Mawere to say that qualifications are not important. Don't forget the year you were born, sir. This is now 2020, right? We are now dealing with certificates. What you said, Mr. Mawere, is that people should polish up their qualifications. It is written in the code of conduct of most professionals, including doctors, including personal trainers, including journalists. After 2 years, you must go to a CPD where you show your board that you are still polishing on your journalism. So thank you very much. This has been a great conversation and nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much. Remember to join us weekdays between, to those who are joining the conversation, please kindly mute your devices when you join in because you're giving us feedback. All right, that's rule number one. Else I'll kick you out because it sort of diverts the train of thought with all the noises that come in. So you can join us weekdays between 10 and 10:45. We've actually gone beyond the allocated time. We're back tomorrow with yet another edition of virtual coffee sessions. We don't stop here. As Mr. M always says, it's not only 1 hour on radio. We've got 24 hours, so we can sort of structure all other conversations throughout the day. So to everybody that joined us, thank you so much. It's been the virtual coffee sessions. Until tomorrow on yet another edition of the virtual coffee sessions, have yourselves a wonderful day. It is the 1873 FM, your voice, your power.
Thank you.